Bloodstained, Curse of the Moon 1 and 2 are two 8-bit games by Inti Creates in the style of the NES Castlevanias. While I still have many Castlevanias I haven't talked about yet, I have covered the 3 NES titles plus a few extras, and every self-published Inti Creates game before Gunvolt 3 besides these two and one other, so I think my viewers kinda wanna know how I feel about the curses. Almost felt like an obligation to talk about these at some point. If there was anyone who waited 3 years for me to talk about Kingdom Hearts 3 knows, obligation doesn't sway me too much. No point to dilly-dally this one, let me explain what the Bloodstained for anyone unaware. So well after the Castlevania games I've covered, the series switched to almost exclusively non-linear adventures, starting with Symphony of the Night, a title which, midway in, saw the director, Todo Higuraha, promoted to a higher position internally at Konami. So another employee, Koji Igarashi, took over directorial duties to finish Symphony, and then went on to head about 5-6 of the remaining pre-reboot games in the series. Then, in 2014, a little after the last big Castlevania game, Lords of Shadow 2, released, Igarashi left Konami. His lack of involvement on Lords of Shadow, which received way more of a budget than he ever did, probably connects to his reason to leave, but truthfully, Konami had so much dumb shit going on at this point, he probably left for a combination of factors. Not long after his departure, he started a Kickstarter for his new game, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. Bloodstained hit every stretch goal on offer, including one to make a separate 8-bit styled retro game, which manifested as Inti Creates Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. And since that did well enough, they released a Curse of the Moon 2 2 years later, with the initial Bloodstained Ritual of the Night sandwiched between the two, and most of its DLC after both. Which, to be clear, I am not talking about Ritual of the Night today, because that would defocus this video, and honestly, I haven't played it yet. Look, I own it, I just always told myself I would hold off until I play all 7 of the Symphony-styled Castlevanias, and I haven't played Ecclesia yet either. Admitting this right after the Mahjong video is not helping my points with women. Anyways, because of this, Curse of the Moon probably has the smallest possible audience net of any Inti Creates game. It's a clear spin-off of a Metroidvania heavily marketed towards people who liked a subset of games that ended in 2008. But it's also styled like another subset of games from that series. Kind of baffling when you jot it down that way. Well, the funny thing I see just now, on the website for Curse of the Moon 1, it says, Curse of the Moon is packed with the retro charm that made the action games of the 80s so enjoyable. And it's like, which action games do you mean exactly? Is there a specific one in mind? Booby Kids, maybe? So Igarashi didn't actually help much on these two. He oversaw some things, but for the most part, he gave Inti Creates free reign, even letting them put the games into an alternate universe to not step on the toes of the main Bloodstained. Given the development schedule, they probably wanted to avoid needing to back and forth unfinished projects with each other. Instead, Hiroki Miyazawa, the person who later came on board to fix Gunvolt 3, directed both Cursed Up Moons. As his first directorial work, Curse of the Moon came out pretty damn good. Keeping with the NES vibes, Curse of the Moon 1 has a very simple setup. Starting with a blank black text scroll, we learn about a man named Zangetsu, a warrior that suffers from the moon's curse given to him by demons. Zangetsu has spent his life hunting down as many demons as he can to bring them down, only planning to stop after they all perish. Then, one night, he senses a great demon, so he proclaims his plan to venture forth to stop this foul beast. On this night, either the demons or the moon itself would feel the wrath of Zangetsu's blade. Unlike usual, I don't have a whole lot to say on the setup. It tells us our good guys and our bad guys, with the most interesting part of it relating to Zangetsu's morality. Unlike a Belmont and most other righteous heroes from the Castlevania series, Zangetsu doesn't do any of this out of a moral duty to better the world. He harbors a deep resentment towards demons for cursing him. He wants to kill them. Because of this, we don't know his alignment when the game begins. Not even Ritual of the Night helps, since we have a different universe, and this came out first. Zangetsu's vague morality introduces room for the player to make decisions about it, but let's talk about what he has mechanically first. While Curse takes tons of inspiration from Castlevania 1 and 3, Zangetsu does not play like a Belmont. He has the typical jump arc, 3 sub-weapons, an anti-air ball and chain, demon warding charms he can throw on the ground like the Holy Water, and a buffing move that doubles his damage, but he lacks the whip that made the Belmont so versatile. He has a short sword slash similar to Ryu's from Ninja Gaiden. This changes him up significantly. Seldom can you attack two enemies at the same time, or stop bullets fast enough to stay on the move. Playing through this first level, you immediately feel how slow and methodical you need to play as Zangetsu. A far cry from Inti's usual fast-paced Mega Man X-inspired gameplay. However, after the first boss, we get the big gimmick of Curse 1. Each of the first 3 bosses guard one of the extra party members in Curse of the Moon: Miriam, the main character of Bloodstained Prime, and 2 side characters from it, Alfred and Gebel. All 3 effectively replace Simon, Sypha, and Alucard from Castlevania 3, with major improvements to all of them. Miriam has a high jump, slide for tight passages, and her whip goes even further. Gebel's attack deals more damage than Alucard's, always arcs upward so you know where it heads, and his bat has a small dashing attack to give him a defensive maneuver. Alfred, with his sub-weapons, leans more into the functionality side that Sypha occasionally made use of. Alfred has an ice spell that works the same as Sypha's, where it freezes before letting you one-shot any enemy, and you can destroy flowing liquids. I swear, the Inti guys froze the lava in Junkman's level back when they worked for Capcom, and decided that every game they make needs this gimmick. Alfred also has this flame shield he can erect, which really makes some rooms easier. All enemies that die in one normal hit die to this, and you can keep the flame wheel when you swap to other characters. Actually, the best change in Curse of the Moon versus Castlevania 3 is the character swapping. You swap characters instantly, and you get to have all party members at once. Sure, Gebel improves on Alucard with the ways I mentioned before, but just not sacrificing your other party members and swapping to him quickly makes using him not feel like a drag. In Castlevania 3, I barely used Alucard when I took his path, because changing to him took a commitment. Without that trade-off, I can forgive Gebel's single attack, which, while an improvement, still only works for highly situational moments, way more than with Alucard, who could not do shit offensively. As an entire team, the 4 of them have great synergy for the upcoming levels, especially because you get them early. After level 3, you have the full party. Because of that, you can also see that levels 2 through 4 feel like tutorials for the extra members. Lots of enemies best dealt with from afar in level 2, level 3 wants you using the fire and ice spells to traverse extra paths, in level 4, okay, really just had 2 spots that I felt needed Gebel. I got more out of him by skipping segments I didn't want to do. I guess you can call that a nice quality of life addition that they wanted for Alucard, which didn't quite come through in the final product of Castlevania 3. Actually, quality of life is maybe the biggest solid that Bloodstained 1 has going for it. Inti Creates does not attempt to revolutionize or fix the core NES Castlevania experience. It already worked there. Instead, they make minor changes. For example, I love the change to candles. Any candle with sub-weapons now has a purple color, and in Bloodstained 2, the ones with health change to pink. This removes the annoyance of kitting out your party. I hated when I accidentally hit a sub-weapon candle as Sypha during times when Simon lacked a good option. It meant I wasted a candle. I never have that problem in Bloodstained, and if everyone has what I want, Gebel gets more mana instead. Legit, best way they could go about this. Also, when one character dies, you stay in your current room, only going back to a checkpoint when everyone dies, or by hitting retry in the menu. A very handy option, especially in Bloodstained 2, if the one character you needed for something fell in battle, also meaning you have a shit ton of lives by the end, if you choose to have them on. Well, the biggest improvement comes just by the nature of not needing to adhere to NES limitations. Anyone who played Castlevania 3 can tell you that it chugged sometimes, especially during auto-scrolling segments and lots of Block 7. Bloodstained gets to have so many colors and complex objects on screen without this downside. Stage themes can reach the variability Castlevania couldn't until around Chronicles. Even by level 2, we get a hard swap midway in. At first you play a normal forest with rivers type level, very common in Castlevania, then bam, ice area a little before the boss. A stage type NES Castlevania never did, because also Bloodstained follows Castlevania 3 with the first 5 levels outside the castle, while the final 3 occur inside. Only unlike C3, the stages still keep changing in the castle. We go lava sewer system to a library to a churchy traditional castle level infested with bugs chasing after you. Their knockback can fuck you hard at intense moments. It gives the castle the same life as later post-Symphony Castlevanias. You have no clue what you might encounter. I don't know if I want to call it my favorite, but I always think of the library when recalling Bloodstained 1. With the protruding books, fast-moving platforms, paths requiring the homies, and freaky Electro Man boss, it just comes to mind first for me. On the topic of that, both Curse of the Moons have some of the flashiest bosses I've seen in an 8-bit styled game. They feel closer to typical Inti Creates bosses than Castlevania ones, which I feel helps to make them stand out. Since level 1 takes place on a train, you fight a demonic steam engine at the end. He follows the Mega Man X intro boss rules of looking intimidating with an easy pattern to learn, a style of boss which we don't see in classic Castlevania often. Every boss then follows the Inti standard of learning every possible move the boss can throw, and then hitting back at the right moment. And thankfully, Curse 1 has no bosses I disliked. All of them had something new compared to each other. Moneyman here requires you to swipe his cash to become a platform if you want to damage him, and the dragon's got 2 heads to choke. You have little chance to know what to do on your first go, but since the game gives you so much leeway for lives and extra health bars due to the extra characters, it doesn't feel overwhelming. For sure, the toughest one comes at the very end with the final boss, Gremory. I think she's also the main antagonist of the main Bloodstained, or probably the faux final boss. Don't spoil it for me. In Curse of the Moon, they don't explain her role much, but she clearly controls the moon in some way, because all her second phase moves have a moon theme. Don't you dare forget the name of the game. Phase 1, she uses these bugs that chased you during the final stage. No lore given for that in this game. Her first phase actually has some of the most annoying attacks to dodge. Both here and during a refight in Bloodstained 2, I ended up just trying my best to damage Sponge through her. You find defense, attack, magic, and health ups during the levels if you have the right characters, so a fully decked out party can easily withstand hits in the first one. I felt few qualms with losing some health at the start, because I found it a lot easier to dodge her phase 2 attacks. After her defeat, she launches one last Darkness Moonball, a cursed moon perhaps, at the weakened party. To keep them safe, Zangetsu jumps in the way to stop the ball, defeating the darkness in his own heart to save his companions. However, this action overwhelmed his body. He defeated the darkness within, only for an external one to take over his body. Now, Miriam, Gebel, and Alfred need to replay every stage, letting a player take a few extra paths in the first 3 levels in an attempt to free Zangetsu's soul from his body, bringing me to Bloodstained 1's biggest success for replay value, the multiple path options. I forgot to mention this at the start. While I'm about to go into Curse of the Moon 2 completely blind, I have played this first one before. One full run in my free time a little after I did the Gunvolt videos, and another time I did about 3 or 4 levels on a rare NovaZone stream before moving to Sonic Generations, because I had trouble playing and reading chat at the same time. For this video, I played it thrice, and in my first run, I did not recruit every party member as I talked about. I did the opposite. I killed every possible party member, in turn giving Zangetsu extra abilities. A wider air slash to get enemies slightly above or below him, a double jump, and a dash, turning Zangetsu into the most mobile character ever in a classic Vania. You go from feeling like Simon with a tiny sword to Joe Musashi in Shinobi 3. If you play him right, you barely need to stop. Inti Creates has no clue how to make a character non-zero adjacent, and sometimes you just gotta let them do it. I didn't even care that it locked me out of most shortcuts. I wanted to run through every stage as Zangetsu like this. While I found this route the hardest, I recommend you guys play this way first, because after finishing it, you can carry those moves over to the start of a new run, meaning you get the best of both worlds, a wacky agile Zangetsu and a full party. It also narratively fits together. In the Zangetsu only route, he absorbs the power to become a Dark Emperor with no one to stop him. The full party route ends on a cliffhanger for the other 3 to stop him, and that final one replaces the old final level with a new one. In this new finale, the party goes to basically hell. Here they separate for 3 short rooms that put their individual abilities to the abilities to unlock the final boss against evil Zangetsu, who has such an edgy design. Zangetsu's scythe arm goes fucking hard, and I dig his new colors. Makes me wish you got an extra mode where you could play as him like this. Against Zangetsu, they wanted all 3 party members fighting him at once, so you control Muriel while Genbu and Alf only hop in to help you dodge moves you would otherwise need to tank. Cool both for the narrative and because Zangetsu doesn't seem to have any good openings for the other 2 anyways. and that is Curse of the Moon 1. Miriam frees Zangetsu's soul, sending him to... What's any from Gunvolt? A solid love letter to classic Castlevania, and great improvement on Castlevania 3's structure. Honestly, if you have not played an 8-bit Castlevania game, I easily recommend starting here. It never has anything bullshit, and despite playing it over 3 times, I did not feel tired of it. Now, technically you need to beat it 6 times for all the Steam achievements, but I read that those really just alter the text scroll, and I knew I still had Curse 2, so no fucking way was I doing that right now. 6 runs for 1 video sounds like a great way to come out of this feeling drained. Speaking of coming out feeling drained, if you did not play Curse 1, they do not intend for you in any way, shape, or form to play Curse 2. In fact, you might want to play 1 or 2 other Castlevanias on top of that before this. Not exactly because Curse 2 is hard, and it does get hard sometimes, but because the amount of things it asks the player just never seems to end. Curse 2 takes place some indistinct time after a nebulous, not real ending of Curse 1 where they stopped the bad guy and no one died. However, an exorcist from the church named Dominique has let the church know that a demon tower has been erected which needs to be stopped, resulting in her recruitment of Zangetsu to stop the demons with her, opening up on the 2 hang gliding towards level 1 with Dominique becoming your second party member at the end, because besides Zangetsu, you get a brand new party in Curse 2. Dominique, whose wiki page gave me a Ritual of the Night spoiler, plus Robert and Hachi, characters original to Curse of the Moon 2. Actually, forgot to mention this, pretty much every character in Curse 1 came from Ritual of the Night's concept designs. I think only one boss from Curse 1 didn't make it into the base game of Ritual of the Night. Curse 2, I'm pretty sure they made all the new bosses for this, or if not, then someone on the Bloodstained wiki has seriously slacked with adding 3D models to boss pages. For the new characters, Dominique has the most varied moveset of anyone so far. She jumps high, has a spear going further than Zangetsu's sword and shorter than Miriam's whip, which she can attack upwards, downwards like Scrooge from and they gave her the most sub-weapons, kinda. Technically, Dominique has 5, a downward thrust that I never found the right time for, an electric ball and rising wind spell that work well for some bosses and enemies, and 2 healing moves. A normal one that sprouts a heart in the ground, and another placed only in specific spots that brings all your deceased party members back to half health.
Oh, give the girl the healing property, of course. Inti Creates, more like misogyny creates.
Getting ahead a little bit, you only have Dominique for 2 possible runs, meaning you don't have much time to figure out all her options. I think maybe they thought her spells and healing were overpowered, but with her slow attack speed, not too high health, and seemingly rare opportunity to have weapons, I actually consider her the most balanced character. Like, I could see doing a full run as only her with only minimal issues. Then I think I might place Robert at the bottom. Rare for Castlevania, Robert makes use of guns to do long-range damage. You can keep your distance with his gun and get fully down to the floor, letting you bypass many attacks, with the downside that he has pitiful health with a super slow fire speed. It made him into a situational character for me, which in Curse 2 I don't entirely consider a bad thing. If they put a Robert character in Castlevania 3 where it took an eternity to switch and you had to pick just one partner, then yeah, I don't think I would ever pick Roberts. Though in the context of Curse 2, I feel less pressure to stay as Robert when I get to segments he doesn't excel at. Use him for his strengths, then quickly swap off before he takes damage because holy shit, by default he's dead in 2 hits. Unless I had the right weapon to use, mainly these spears and turbo cannon with way too much knockback, I stayed off of Robert as much as possible during bosses. Because even if you don't lose a life when one character dies, you still get sent back to the room before the boss, and the boss gains back some percent of their health. Then for our last character, we have Hachi, a small dog in a steampunk mech. High on the wacky scale for Castlevania, somewhere in the middle for Inti. We already had Kana by this point. Hachi trades sub-weapons with lots of health, a hover, a ground pound, and an invincibility mode that drains mana. If you have the mana, you can mow through areas with small single health enemies or find the right position on some bosses to get rid of like half of their health. If you had a full health Hachi, you could use up mana invincibility, then just sacrifice a little of your extra real health because fuck it. You have more characters afterwards. It's a stupid fun thing to do, which is probably why they make it harder to even reach some bosses later on. Hachi became my B option very quickly, and for some parts of the game, my primary character. He just has way too many benefits for me to ignore him, especially when Zangetsu got some nerfs. So when I turned the game on, obviously I knew Zangetsu wouldn't start with the extra moves he had at the end of Curse 1. However, I had hope that I might not need to wait long because this little button at the start asked me where I wanted to map the dash, and that made me a little excited. Then And a little after you get your full party, Zangetsu finds a new sword that grants him a buff to every sub-weapon, a 3-hit slash, and a spin attack when he uses the Oni mask. So not the same upgrades from Curse 1 besides the wider air slash, but still some abusable shit. Getting this upgrade midway in made Zangetsu more useful in my first run than Curse 1, because when I initially played Curse 1 without the New Game Plus abilities, Zangetsu often went right to the back. Miriam offered more than base Zangetsu, getting me to the replays of Curse 2. After you beat a refight with the final boss from Curse 1 and this big bug Beelzebub, who I guess gave her the bug powers, Dominique sacrifices herself to save her partners, leading to a similar run 2 where you lose one of your 4 characters. And this led to the least fun I have ever had in an Inti game. Just like Curse 1, you see lots of paths you couldn't get to during the first run. In Curse 1, after you finish that first playthrough, be that the one where you buff up Zangetsu or gain party members, you could then reach the secrets on replay. Curse 2's second run only gives you new routes in the first 3 levels, yet still has a crap ton of routes you can't reach, obviously to hint at a third run, and starting on level 4, you are only objectively nerfed compared to the first run because of it, for more reasons than just lacking Dominique. If you want the good ending, you need to take the extra paths in stages 1 through 3 to obtain these special sword pieces. Bring them to the spot where Zangetsu got buffed in run 1, and he gains a new fancy sword called Zanmato, which, get fucking this, reverts all of Zangetsu's abilities back to before his buff. You cannot go back, and this lasts for the rest of episode 2 and all of episode 3 and EX, meaning you work hard to play the first run to then get saddled with 1.5 less characters, leaving only the 2 gimmickier characters at full strength. For the rest of this run, I mostly used Hachi, besides specific moments where Robert made more sense. Here's the deal, Bloodstained 2's first 3 levels don't take much. They introduce you to the party in the same way as Curse 1. It really only got hard at stage 5, when you have the buff Zangetsu and all 4 party members. You encounter difficult platforming you might want Hachi's hover for, long-range enemies best dealt with by Robert's gun, or flying enemies expecting you to use Dominique's spear. Not having Dominique and nerfing Zangetsu seems like they intended this as a challenge run, but without any of the benefit of Curse 1's second run, and the clear indication that we still have another after this. It feels as if the developers punish the player for continuing. The worst comes right before and during the bosses at levels 5, 6, and 7. Bosses 5 and 6 ask for so much patience. Just sitting there for boss 5 while he does his dumb lava jumps with meteors that I think Hachi just can't dodge some of. In the first fight you had more leeway because Dominique could hit from below and Zangetsu had more vertical range on his slash. No such leeway here. Just wait around until shit starts to work out, getting even worse at the next boss. Cough Egregious has arrows from the side, spinners he sends out that bounce off the walls until they hit the floor, and electric shockwaves that go across the floor. You have to stay vigilant at every moment to ensure you don't get hit. Dominique and Robert have convenient ways to get rid of the side arrows if they had the right sub-weapon, but Robert has too low of DPS to do anything worthwhile to the actual boss. Meaning if you come in here with any of your 3 party members dead on Route 2, especially Hachi or Robert, you may as well throw in the towel. Hit reset, try again. Itself a tall ask because the rooms before those 2 bosses have a fuck ton of heavy enemies that require your utmost patience to get rid of. I hated dealing with these mechs right before the refight with Curse 1's final boss. If you get close to them as any character, they're toast. You need as much health as possible for the following boss. So it's either waste all your mana with Hachi's invincibility, or slowly shoot them down with Robert. Or then we have this room with all these spiders and spikes on the ceiling. Dominique's electric ball could shock and destroy all of this at once, making you feel good if you came in with that. But now you pretty much need to slowly shoot down everything as Robert, because even one slip up ensures a knockback into death. This isn't fun, it's tedious. Removing one character is enough. We didn't need to nerf the main character as well, but it only gets worse. When you reach the final boss, it changes into an easy encounter if you know the tricks. Just slam these balls away to attack the eyes, then when the big weak point opens up, fucking mash Zangetsu's Oni mask infused sword into it. finally rescue Dominique with a big sword slash to unlock episode 3. However, we also have an EX episode that you can only unlock if you get the bad ending, meaning not nerfing Zangetsu. And since Curse 2 has a level select option that doesn't reset item gains, you can actually play the whole run with a non-nerf Zangetsu, go back for the sword after the bad ending, beat the final boss again, and have both extra episodes unlocked. If you get the sword at all, you lock yourself out of the bad ending. I fucked up and had to play episode 2 twice, which thankfully with Zangetsu was not as bad, only furthering my question for why they did this to him. You only need to actually do what I did for an achievement that I fucked up getting anyways because I wanted to test the backtracking option. Nothing about this run feels fair. Thankfully, episode 3 didn't piss me off as much. After saving Dominique, the team learns that a bunch of moon demons plan to invade Earth. Our party can only stop it if they take a spaceship to the moon with the help of the party from Curse 1. By the way, the EX episode that I offhandedly mentioned earlier starts you with the still nerfed Zangetsu and all 3 old party members. For the sake of this video, I skipped that. In episode 3, we change into a full-on Mega Man X style setup. You choose which stage to go to next, and after beating a stage, you get whichever party member went there. And which party member goes where changes with every new save file, meaning you can potentially abuse the system if you want your fave on level 1. I had comparatively more fun in episode 3 than episode 2. You can go in and out of levels without losing items like in Mega Man, so I didn't feel the need to do everything all at once, meaning I immediately got whoever went to stages 1 through 3, traveled to the paths I knew they could get me into, and kinda accepted that I had much backtracking to do once I reached the end. And like, fuck, man. You have so many cool new paths that make use of combining the old characters with the new ones. This isn't a Mega Man X3 thing where there's one tiny deal on the side that you finally smash once you get an item. You go down a full new path with your stuff, like freezing a waterfall with Alfred before flying up as Gebel to smash this as Hachi. It would all be cool if I didn't have to do it after a shitty episode in the middle that fucking nerfed my protagonist. Actually insane that you have 7 characters to swap through, and the main guy has the least use. Nearing the end of episode 3, and I still don't have the dash, which I mapped on boot up. Honestly, best way to put it is this little conversation I had in recording.
We don't want to feel like we're overcharging for a 2-hour-long game, so we padded it out with a ton of modes that weren't well thought out.
Yeah, it's just the problem is it makes it feel like none of the modes has everything. And the first game, there was certain stuff you'd miss out on depending on what you did per route. But if you did certain things, you could do one route where you have everything. And so if this has that, after I finish this, cool, I'll eat my words. But right now, I don't. And I feel like beating the game 2 or 3 times should have been enough for that.
Bloodstained 2 bad confirmed?
Yeah, Roman's literally been saying that this whole time.
I kid with my friends, I don't consider this bad, but I can easily call the struggle for the true ending the weakest one in an Inti game besides X2. And I really don't think I'd feel this if you ripped out the second episode. It had nothing to offer versus episodes 1, 3, and EX. And I hate that I say this, because I should find the finale hype as fuck. After you find all the machine parts, Alfred makes us aware that we have everything needed to go fight on the moon. Technically, you can go up anytime you want in a Mega Man X5 Enigma Cannon type of way. I just wanted to make sure I had everything because I wanted to end my playthrough as safely as possible. I spent an hour on some stages in episode 2. In typical Japanese game fashion, we change into a surprise shmup section. Here you get a shit ton of upgrades. All the sub-weapons from the main game, which stack on top of each other for this mess of bullets on screen. Once you arrive on the moon, you have one last kinda easy level. Only trick relates to the moon physics that took a while to get the hang of. For light characters such as Robert, they could get knocked back far as fuck during the main game. While now, everyone suffers from knockback hard. Thankfully, the designers kinda knew it was tricky, so they give you Dominique's Revive Everyone ability next to the first checkpoint, and make a good chunk of rooms abusable with Gebel or Hachi. Plus, the more party members you have, the more rooms you can skip. Not sure if the game intended for this one. In the end, you find a big godlike entity with moon rabbit skeletons on their side. You have two options to fight him. Hit a rabbit enough so they turn to stone, or get small damage using Miriam and Dominique's high jump. The former allowing for more damage at once, while the latter lets you walk around safely a little more. Squall Creepypasta here has tons of projectiles that take time to learn, so you do want to stay as patient as possible in your first few attempts. Except a full reset or two until your real attempts, where I think you should open up with the high jumpers before swapping to the bunny hop strategy, and probably swap to Alfred or Robert to tank a few hits you can't get out of. Neither helps too much without sub-weapons, and I recommend saving your mana for Miriam's big dumb axe or Hachi's invincibility.
The user will just make a text post.
Please no phase 2, no phase 2, no phase 2.
You ready for phase 2?
Oh, thank God, they're doing the big special. Everyone's power of teamwork. Yay!
God, Roman, the Live Alive remake was so good. I seriously, like, that final phase of that final boss in that game was new, and I remember getting there and just thinking, like, holy shit.
Oh.
What if the game just ends here?
So that was the good ending?
Yes, that was the good ending.
Man, I gotta be honest, Roman, I don't think that was a very good ending.
So is there stuck in the moon? Where's Walnut?
I want to like the ending. It goes hard conceptually, but fuck man, I was still so tired from the brutality of episode 2 and brain dead during half of my run in episode 3, which as a reminder was my 4th time playing the game. The only benefit is that by beating chapter 3, you unlock Ultimate Zangetsu, an option you can turn on when beginning any chapter to let Zangetsu have every ability he had in the first and second game. His double jump, spin slash, upgraded holy water, charge slash, and his dash. Meaning I've gotta eat my words.
I can't eat this without ink.
I feel like I'm fucking insane because I talked about wanting to stop playing the whole 4th run until I unlock this, and my first thought is, holy shit, I should play the game again. And you know, that's cool. I can have fun in the game with the character we have to use the most. I just think it shouldn't take 3 playthroughs to do that. What I think, they should have made you get the Zanmoto pieces in chapter 1. Zangetsu earns his buffs there, cut out chapter 2 entirely, make chapter 3 the second chapter, and chapter EX occurs if you don't find the Zenmoto in chapter 1. You only lose some character development for Dominique this way, which as y'all can guess from my skipping over it, I didn't find engaging enough to justify poor gameplay padding. I do like how Curse 2 has some cute little character interactions between levels. It makes me believe that they value each other's companionship, leading to the finale where everyone teams up to hit harder. But at the end of the day, these are alternate universe supplemental materials to another game with a greater story focus. As a throwback to NES games, Curse needs to value gameplay first, so I am totally fine if they gutted this one plot thread. In conclusion, I do enjoy both Curse of the Moon games. I think both have lots to offer to fans of classic Castlevania. It's just, Curse 2 on a fresh save file can suck. I think next time I come back, I'm gonna go straight into a chapter 3 route with Ultimate Zangetsu, and probably end up having more fun than I did in either game. Ultimate Zangetsu plays like an Inti character in Castlevania, which basically means a power trip, plus you have other playable characters. Who I get first and where can make every run feel so different. I just wish it didn't happen after souring my mood. Again, I have not played a self-published Inti game that I absolutely hated yet. This second half of the video feels negative because of my very recent anger with Curse 2, but it's possible that I come back in a year refreshed for one single run that bumps it from bottom 5 to top 5 Inti games. So don't take my opinion today as my permanent forever opinion. It can easily change. I figure most people watching this that haven't played these yet are pre-existing on the fence Inti or Castlevania fans, and for y'all, definitely just go for it.